Hey everybody, welcome back to Worth Fighting For, where we cover HBO's The Last of Us. I'm Brian Marr, and I'm joined, as always, by Tamur Kutab. Tamur, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brian. I'm doing well. Coming off of this episode, still feeling quite dark. I'm in Massachusetts this time around, and
Mm,
it's snowy and cold here. And like I
yes.
was watching this episode, feeling like, oh my god, I'm living this shit. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very very strong episode. But like, oh my god, so dark, so cold,
Mm,
pretty depressing.
yep.
Yeah, but I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah. Luckily, we really, well, mostly only have like crazy Catholics, not just crazy Christians. So that's like the one real difference. I guess, and infected, but there were very many infected in this episode, so it
No.
is very similar, actually, now that you mention
Yeah.
it.
Oh, 100%.
So, I guess right off the top, good episode, bad episode, great episode. How do you feel?
Okay, so if we're doing like a direct comparison to the game, I think this episode was actually quite lacking. But I think by the end, just seeing how, not to get too hard of ourselves, but seeing how everything pans out, and especially the performances are incredibly strong. Um, I thought, by the end, I came around and I was like, okay, this is an incredible piece of television. That said, I mean, as we go through this, I can talk about the things that I thought were really lacking in that they could have included.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they definitely captured the, you know, people versus people elements extremely well. I thought Bella Ramsey, holy shit, so good in
Hmm.
this episode. Um, Obviously Troy Baker also really good, and it's so funny
Yeah.
like watching Troy Baker because he's like, I don't know if you want to say relegated, but like people definitely like pigeonhole him as like he's a voice actor. But like I was
Hmm.
watching this and I was like, and maybe I just really like him, but I was like, yeah, this is like a fucking good actor. Like he's really good in this, you know.
Oh, he's amazing. And
Yeah.
I was like, I kind of wish they had saved him almost for like season 2 or something where you don't like his character. You don't like any of these people living in this community really, and I kind of wanted him to be a more likable character because I love Troy Baker as a person, but obviously, yeah, you're completely right. He kills it in this role, and he's just so he plays that perfect balance, kind of similar to Perry in earlier episodes where like he's following this leader. He is kind of questioning some of the decisions, but he's still following them and being loyal. And in this one, he really plays that that person who's like totally blinded by vengeance and will even like kill a child or attempt to kill a child. And it's just like it's so dark, and he pulls it off so well.
Yeah, and then of course you got to give a shout out to Scott Shepard as David. You know, horrifying villain,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
terrifying in the game, and he brought him to life in a really great way. I just thought that he, ah, just all kinds of gross,
Yeah.
disgusting. You fucking hate this guy. By the end of the episode, when Ellie's bashing his face in with the meat cleaver, you're just like, oh, thank God, thank
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
I saw a funny TikTok before we were recording where it's like someone be like playing that scene and then like buying the game on Steam and being like, it's not enough to see him die in the show. I need to kill David myself.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. And yes, I agree. I think he's so perfect in the role, and just the look on his face, even when he's just kind of in a straight, position where it's like, he's not even saying anything too creepy. He's just looking at you with this like dead look. It's so good. And I do want to mention I love how Nolan North plays this character in the game, but they've clearly made some changes in the show which work better, I think, given the context of the show and where the characters are at. And I mean, we were kind of talking about this before we started recording. In the game, David is a likable character at first. You're playing as Ellie, you're defending yourselves together, and the infected is like they're the common enemy, and you work together to try to escape them and basically survive. So you get that sense like David actually could be someone that I trust. Whereas in the show, they're really they're really honing in on this theme of like fatherhood. So you get way more scenes of this group who are kind of in dire straits. They don't have any food left. Um, he's like punishing this younger woman who's lost her dad and is basically like injecting himself into her life and being like, all right, well, I'm your dad now. Like it's I mean, it's so incredibly creepy and yeah, and I think it's a really interesting change from the game that makes a lot of sense in this context because Joel and Ellie are developing this father-daughter relationship, and then obviously by the end of this episode, we see that Joel allows himself to be open and really take on that fatherly role and kind of emotionally be there for her. But David's like the antithesis of that. He's this creepy cult leader who's, yeah, just gives me the chills. Ugh.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is for sure. I think they did an okay job of making him seem normal enough, but I think
Mm-hmm.
by starting it off with like the him reading, I think it was like Revelations, so like the Bible passage or a passage in Revelations, and I don't know. I feel like sometimes like whenever there's like a preacher character like that, it's almost, I don't know if you just like side eye them. Like, all right, you could be good, but also
Yeah.
maybe not. Really more layers of disturbing backstory with David too, saying that he's found religion in the apocalypse, and then also that he used to be a school teacher. Given what we know about David now, yikes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so just yeah, real interesting villain to have here.
Oh yeah.
And then Pedro Pascal, he really channeled the game version of Joel in this
Mm-hmm.
episode. You know what I mean? He
Oh,
really
definitely.
like captured the menacing, and that's something that maybe we haven't seen too much of in this show yet. We
Mm-hmm.
focus more on like Joel being a kind of like tired, like world weary type of a character, but like this is a glimpse into the Joel that he wishes that he never had to become, but the Joel that,
Mm-hmm.
probably got him and Tommy through like the worst of the apocalypse, right?
Yeah. I mean, just the fact that he can stand up after being stabbed by a pike, and then excuse me.
That's
Um, Here, I'll just start that sentence over. Um, the fact that he can be stabbed by a pike, get up, and and then go on to like defend himself against three or four other guys. I think
He
it's
kills
four.
at least three on screen, but
Right.
there are definitely a bunch of guys looking for him.
Right.
So he at least keeps two alive to
Mm,
interrogate
to
him, which we
interrogate
get
them.
that just super iconic scene from the game where, he gets them to point on the map, and
Mm-hmm.
he does, and then he kills that guy, and the other guy's like, I'm not going to tell you where it is. And he's like, that's okay because I believed him. And
Yep.
then it just kills him. And he's
It's
like, oh
so
my
good.
God, so good.
It's amazing. Yeah. No, and it's yeah, it's like you said, the Joel from the game. And yeah, I mean, as we're talking about this, I do wonder if like if they hadn't started with the religious yeah introduction to this character, which kind of at least for me makes me not trust him right off the get go. I do wonder if the audience would have been more on his side because there is that moment um, earlier where Ellie she still has him at like gunpoint. She clearly doesn't trust this guy, but they have like a moment and she kind of starts to ease up and I think I mean it's kind of that's to me like the equivalent of them defending themselves against all this like horde of zombies together. They were trying to, I think, like capture that in this back and forth dialogue. I think for me it was like too brief, and really, if they had really like tried to deceive the audience more, I think it actually could have been, yeah, more interesting and more. I don't know. I think they possibly could have milked it more. I don't know about you.
Yeah, this could have been 2 episodes. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I loved that we got 2 episodes in the Kansas City section.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually mentions like Pittsburgh and being from the Pittsburgh QZ in this, which
Mm-hmm.
is a fun like little reference to the game,
Mm-hmm.
because Pittsburgh is what happens in Kansas City in the game. But
Right.
I would have loved a 2 episode arc of this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this first episode is Ellie, meeting them and fighting off infected with them, and then the twist where, oh, we know who you are and we know that you killed like our group member comes in. And yeah, just have a whole episode where you think David is just like a normal guy trying to survive out here, because they've really not met. Like, yeah, they met the Kansas City group that was like after them, and they had to kill people there. But then they met the couple in the cabin who were very nice to them, even though all things considered,
Yeah.
they're holding them at gunpoint. Like, they were nice to Joel and Ellie.
Yeah.
And then obviously Jackson everyone was great. So you could have probably lulled the audience into like a false sense of security here,
Yeah.
like, oh, it's people are mostly nice during the apocalypse. Like, they just want to help each other survive, and then like have a little twist on it. So I do wish we got a little bit more, and I think I wonder if HBO, looking at it now, is like, oh man, we should have given them more episodes. Like, we could have,
Yeah.
really built this out. I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Oh no, I totally agree, and that thought had actually occurred to me too while watching the episode. Like they really could have split this into 2 episodes. And thinking back, do I want that? I don't know, because it's such like a grim story arc, and I think, okay, let's say they had kind of stuck with everything, the same pacing that they had gone with this season so far, and then they had split this into two. I think it would have felt just too long and too like, yeah, like dark and depressing to stay on. But I mean, I think there's an argument for like extending the entire season and having this be perhaps part of season two, and like toward the very end of season two, um, which I feel like we could go on and on about restructuring it, and maybe we will in an extra episode. Wink, wink. Once the season ends, but yeah, no, but I agree. I wanted more, because I mean they do a lot in this episode that they don't really return to. So like one example is, um, we find out that the man that Joel killed, the one that stabbed him and that he killed, kind of defending himself, um, was like a father, and he had a wife and a daughter. And this, without getting into spoiler territory about what exactly happens in the second game, this mirrors something that's a heavy theme that's throughout, paced throughout the second game. And I found that like to be a really interesting choice. That, I mean, it's clearly something that they're they're placing here to set you up, to be prepared that this sort of thing happens in the world. And you know you have Troy's character, who like is totally okay with killing Ellie, and wants revenge on this little girl. It's just so like he's just totally lost his moral compass, even though they claim to be religious. I think it could have been. I think it definitely could have been extended, and they could have actually like gone even further with like the morals of this group, and the way Ellie kind of like learns about this world more so from them.
Yeah, it would have been interesting for sure. But my hope is that now this tells them that they should take their time with season 2, 3. Like the
Mm-hmm.
second, adapting the second game. They should really take their time because the second game is twice as long as the first game. And I think in order for that story to be like really good, and to be adapted in a way that's like honoring the source material, they need to like let it breathe.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, the second game in particular, I mean, it just has, thinking back, it has so much more to it. It's like, yeah, more characters, more areas, and even though it takes place in a shorter amount of time, it feels like it covers more. But
Yeah.
that said, I don't know. We'll see what they if they kind of power through that as well.
And no, I mean you know me like the beginning of this season, I was like, oh, I feel like they're definitely like not gonna adapt the whole first game. Like it feels like
Hmm.
there's not enough time to do it, especially after the
Hmm.
Bill and Frank episode, which was like a standalone episode and like probably progressed Jill and Ellie's story like 20 minutes of the
Yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Um, and I guess like the way they got around that is like, well, we just won't have as many infected scenes, you know.
Right. Which to me is like,
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into that now.
let's do
Like,
it. Yeah.
there are no infected, and we love the show. We love like
Yeah,
the
we're
heart
literally
of it.
making a
We're like
podcast
it's
about it.
so
We
it's
love
so
it.
good. It is
Yeah.
so good, but it is based on a video game that's very famously included infected and zombies and is part of the zombie genre, and
Hmm.
there haven't been any, and it hasn't taken away from the story, the heart of it, but I do wonder if you're just watching the show and you're like, okay, this whole thing is a journey for Ellie to get the cure to the virus. If you're a little bit like, I don't know, it doesn't seem that bad. There doesn't seem to be that many infected
Hmm.
around. We've gone episodes with only like one infected showing up, and Ellie has no problem leaving Joel alone in a basement, like knocked
Hmm.
out. Like you'd think that'd be more nerve wracking if the
Hmm.
cordyceps infected were around. So, Tamor, do you feel like the threat of the infected has been understated in an attempt to kind of like more focus on the human drama of the show?
Oh, definitely, 100%. And this is like, I think the biggest problem with this season, that the zombies, the infected, don't feel like the biggest threat. I think we've mentioned this in previous episodes. The biggest threat clearly is other humans, their egos, their, you know, the fact that they're living in this post-apocalyptic world and they've completely lost sense of morals and everything that has to do with that, which is of course fascinating, and that's something that the genre itself has been playing with, for years and years now. And I think The Walking Dead is another example of that, where you have that famous line,
Yeah.
"We are the Walking Dead."
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's definitely more blatant about it, right?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I think the season 4 or 5 like tagline for the show is literally like, "Fight the dead, fear the living." You know.
right, right. And it's I mean it's such a valid theme, and I think the Last of Us, the video game, does it amazingly. That said, the game also balances it out with a fuck ton of zombies, and they really are a really serious threat, and yeah, I think it's like the biggest missed opportunity to not at least show more of these. And I wonder if it's like a budget thing, or if it's like the showrunners just got lost in the themes and realized there wasn't enough time for these like fight scenes or defense, scenes. But like, I mean, this episode is a perfect example where like throwing the audience off and thinking that David's actually perhaps a good guy, which I thought when I first played the game. Um, it's like such a great plot point, and it's a great twist, which in the show we kind of sense he's like a weird bad guy right from the get go. But Well, I'm just
Sorry,
because
Scott, you just give bad vibes.
yeah, 100%. And I bring that up because it's like they could have used the zombies as a device because I feel like the one of the biggest reasons why they're not having all these sneaking scenes, Joel like sneaking up on zombies or like killing them or like defending themselves is because they wanted to stick to the story and have like the zombies have to the zombies connect to whatever they're the story they're trying to tell in the moment that connects to the larger themes of the show. um, but I would argue that they could have easily included them and it still would have made logical sense with the world and the themes that they're trying to tackle. So I think it was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and like there's some things about the gameplay I get cutting. We don't need to watch Joel ferry Ellie across bodies of water with a
Yeah.
with a pallet. That's fine.
Yeah.
We got a little calling out of it during what the first episode or second episode,
Mm-hmm.
where she was like, "I can't swim," and that's enough. We don't need to see the actual,
Mm-hmm.
gameplay elements of that. But yeah, I mean, I hope hopefully people aren't listening to me like, oh, they're just dumb bros, which fair and true.
Yeah, we are.
But
That's fine.
we both like zombie media a lot. We both watch all kinds of zombie movies, but like there are narratively important elements, like you said, the bonding of Ellie and David, where they're fighting infected back to back together and saving each other. That makes the zombies more than just like a cool action set piece, right?
Yeah. And like, to use that example, there's that part later in the episode where Ellie's been imprisoned and David's trying to like convince her like, like we can be something like this can go either one of two directions. You can like join forces with me or we're just going to like chop you up and and probably eat you, which is sickening that he's like on the fence either way. But I think that scene would have been much, much stronger if we were sure what Ellie was thinking because they had these bonding moments defending themselves and perhaps she kind of likes him um, as like, another or respects him as another survivor, what have you. But I think it's like pretty clear that Ellie's not going to fucking go for this, just knowing her character and, knowing how these kind of like prison scenes go in a lot of movies, or like these interrogation scenes. It's like obviously they're gonna like lure them in, bite their hand, and like try to steal the key. It's like kind of cliche, but yeah, and yeah, no, I think yeah,
Yeah, although I did love the scene, where she's like, oh, like realizes what he means, and then breaks his finger and like tries to get the key, doesn't get it, but then she's like, okay, I'll go tell the others. She's like, yeah, tell them the little girl broke your fucking finger, like, or
yep,
tell Ellie broke your fucking finger. And it's like that was awesome.
yeah, that was great.
Love that. And she's
Yeah.
so like the character of Ellie is so clever. In the
Mm-hmm.
moment, like just in the game, she says she's infected to keep them from
Mm-hmm.
killing and eating her, but she uses that moment of like them having their guard down to just like take the knife and
Yeah.
kill James and make her escape. And I just like admire Ellie as a character so much, and Bella really brings Ellie to life in such a great way.
Yeah, no, totally. And I love how she calls Troy Baker's character Buddy Boy like several times. Like when she has like the gun up to them and he's like, have Buddy Boy go get the the medicine. It's like I don't know. I don't that's like I don't think that's something in the game. That's just like something they added, which is like I don't know, giving her that little extra like bit of personality and everything. Um, yeah, and I think that's totally true. It's that scene was so good when she grabs the cleave, and I was like, obviously I didn't want to see Troy Baker die, or I wanted to see his character live, so I could just see more scenes with him. But I was also like, yes, okay, she can escape now. It's like, oh yeah, that was a great scene. Yeah,
Yeah, I wonder how weird it was for Troy Baker to be acting in those scenes, like
yeah,
against someone playing Ellie who's not Ashley Johnson, but like
hmm
from a different perspective. That must have been so strange.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Because they don't have any. There's no scenes between him and Joel. I think that would be even weird. In my head, I was like, are they gonna like kill his character off with like a Joel scene? Is this gonna be like a
Joel's gonna
Spider-Man
kill
meme?
Joel. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. But no, they did. I think they did it in a very, because if you don't know Troy Baker, as if you're not listening to the podcast or if you're not watching like the random like segments they have on YouTube, which kind of like highlight him, and you're just watching this, like, like my dad, he's watching this and he's not gonna know any of this, but it's, it doesn't stand out to you. It's just like, here's this minion character who's like played really well. But yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, another thing I wanted to mention was like, uh, yeah, so because like going back to like, you were talking about how like they didn't include these scenes of like Joel carrying her on like like slabs or whatever. Um, Another thing is like they don't show her like hunting for like a half an hour. I was like really appreciative of that. It's like, okay, yes, she hunts this deer and she shoots it once, and then like, and then we see these other characters, and like, we drop right into like the drama of it instead of just, in the game. I remember that was like one of my least favorite parts because it's just like, oh my god, where the fuck did this deer go? Like, why do I have to run around in the snow to like hunt my dinner? Um, and then the other thing was like she sees like a white rabbit, which I think is kind of a nod to the game where she hunts a white rabbit, and there was like that meme that kind of
Yeah,
became
the very
famous.
famous Twitch clip of that
Yeah,
streamer.
just the sound effects. uh,
So yeah,
yeah,
they had to include the rabbit just for that. But the rabbit lives this time.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it
Oh,
got
totally.
away.
Yeah,
Hopefully that streamer watched was happy to see that.
yeah, right. Oh man, but yeah.
Yeah, and like aside from the infected being light, I thought it was a really great episode. I thought the the scene where David's stalking Ellie is terrifying, just like it was in the game, but you
Hmm.
know, even more terrifying to see real actors play the scene out. And then
Hmm.
Ellie's like righteous anger towards him when she's stabbing him in the face. It's very cathartic as the audience to see her come out victorious and to not get raped in that scene, as
Hmm.
that was horrifying.
Yeah.
And like you're just like, yes, thank God she fucking like lived and she killed David. And that scene where Joel reunites with her and like hugs her and calls her like baby girl, and is very very dad ish
Hmm.
in that moment, like just like trying to comfort her and like protect her. And it's
Hmm.
just, I don't know, that like brought a tear to my eye. I thought that was so well done.
Oh, same. Yeah, the just him saying baby girl was like so emotional and just kind of, it's really, I think, what we've been wanting, like the comment that we make almost like every episode of like we just want these characters to like come together, because I think that's really where like the narrative shines, is like, they're together in this awful world. Um, and like it just, yeah, it all paid off in that one scene, and it's like so perfectly done. Her, or I should say Bella Ramsey's acting is just so like flawless in that scene. She's just like traumatized, and it's like covered in blood and like staring at him, and it's like, because I watched that scene twice, I was just like, oh my god, her performance, or their performance, is like really really incredible. And I mean, the whole thing is really, it's so dark, and it really reminded me, like when she's like killing him, it really reminded me of a scene toward the end of the second game, which I won't spoil what it is, but I think anyone who's played it will know. It's just a very dark moment between two characters that you can't look away from. You're playing a game, you have to like keep going. And I mean, it's a similar thing in this show where it's like she just keeps hitting him, and it's like, oh my god, like when is it going to be enough? um but it's like, oh, it's so dark, but it's so effective too. Yeah, yeah, really really effective.
No, definitely. And Yeah, maybe Bella Ramsey will get an Emmy. We'll see. Maybe a nomination at least, if not
Oh
an
yeah,
award. There's so many good performances this year.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
it's so hard. I watch like all these different shows, like House of the Dragon. I know
Mm,
Better Call Saul just ended, Succession, and now this, and I'm
mm.
just like, there's not enough Emmys to go around for all like the
Yeah,
amazing performances that are happening.
yeah. No, Bella Ramsey definitely deserves. I think at least deserves a nod. And maybe I feel like with these kind of things, like usually you don't get the nod till like season two. It's almost like they want to be like, we want to see if this show can like sustain itself before we start handing out these awards. Like same thing with like Succession. I thought season one, Jeremy Strong, is his name right? I thought he completely deserved an awards season one hands down, but they weren't even really on like the radar until season two. But anyway, um, yeah, totally agree. Bella Ramsey, I think above anyone else in the show, really would deserve something.
Yeah, so I say this every week, but in the face of all you fucking haters who thought that Bella Ramsey wasn't going to be able to play Ellie, fucking nerds. I knew.
Yeah, yeah.
Just from Game of Thrones, I was like, yep, they're going to kill it. And they have. And I'm so excited for more seasons of this show as we go forward. But
Me too.
yeah, next episode that's it for this season, Tamur. That's crazy,
I
man.
know. Oh man, I'm so sad to see it leave. It's been such a great like routine.
Hmm.
Sunday nights, pull up the
Yep.
chairs and popcorn. It's like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah, I really need. Hopefully, HBO has another show up their sleeve next because I've basically gone from House of the Dragon to White Lotus to this, like, and it's just been great. So
Well,
I'm not.
Brian.
I don't know what I'm gonna be doing with my Sunday nights after this is over.
Well, what if I told you Succession comes back at the
Oh
end of
my
March?
god, this is the trade off. All right, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
I know,
Whew.
right?
Yeah, I don't have to address the Sunday scaries for a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, once Succession's over, then it's gonna be like, oh fuck, what do I do on
Yeah.
Sundays?
Yeah, hopefully by then the Showtime show about the Lakers will be back or something, and I can
Right.
continue my disassociating
Yeah.
on Sunday evenings to
Yeah.
really high quality TV.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh yeah, I had one more question about this
Yeah,
episode. So there's a scene, before everything, where Ellie gets the medicine or the what's it called?
I think it was penicillin, right?
Right, right, yeah, the
Yeah.
penicillin, and she doesn't like know what to do, so she just like shoots it into like where the wound is. I was like,
Yeah, you gotta ask your dad, who's a doctor. Does that work or not?
that was literally what I was thinking. I was like, all right, what would I do in this instance? I feel like it still goes in the arm because it's just the blood
Right.
stream. Like I would just put it,
Yeah,
but like then again, I don't know, it worked, right? So
I
like,
guess.
but were you thinking about that too?
Oh yeah, I when I was watching it, I was like, surely that's not right.
Right? Yeah, me too.
Like, I
Yeah,
don't think,
imagine in a hospital, like, oh, you got like a bunch, like a chunk out of you, like, or
right,
you got stabbed. Let's just put the needle right where you
right.
fucking got stabbed.
It's almost like very video game logic,
Yeah.
you know? It's like, oh, you're hurt, just like wrap your arm and you'll be fine.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, I don't, I feel like it wouldn't work, but I don't know.
yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about medicine.
I
I,
feel like it would still work, but uh, yeah, it's not like the right protocol. You wanna like shoot it into maybe a vein, like an artery or a vein or something, and not just like
yeah,
where someone got injured. I don't know.
mhm, yeah. Really, we need some oral penicillin. Like, I don't know
Yeah,
why we're
I
giving
know. Like what the fuck?
syringe.
Um,
For a second, I thought Ellie was just gonna like squirt it on the wound.
oh god, can you imagine? After all that.
Yeah,
uh, yeah, yeah. And then I guess another point of like discussion is because we were kind of texting about this. The cordyceps zombies, can they survive in the cold of winter, or so basically the theory is like, would the human host die so that the cordyceps couldn't live, or I guess the cordyceps would live on, it just wouldn't be able to like keep the human
Move,
alive,
maybe. Yeah.
or are they fine? Obviously in the game they seem to be okay, and like even in the second game at like toward like the very beginning, um, you get like zombies in
They're
the dead of
a
winter.
fuck ton fun.
Yeah, that's like a
And one,
terrifying scene.
yeah,
Oh my god.
segment in the snow. So
Hmm.
in the games, yeah, they're fine. I think they operate a little bit more under zombie logic in the
Hmm.
games. I think maybe in the show it's not. Yeah, they must not be that big of a threat. Because why would like you know people live here if
Hmm.
like if it was horrible and
Yeah.
cold and also they're still infected?
Right.
Um,
And then why
so
wouldn't
yeah,
everybody just move up there? You know?
yeah, no, they should. Um, so I think this is definitely a question for Neil Druckmann if we can ever
Yeah.
ask him. What are the rules for these infected? Like, because you can kill them in traditional ways in the game, right? Like you
Hmm.
can snap their neck, you can stab them, um, like in the neck, and they die.
Right.
Um, Whereas like zombies, you have to like only hit the brain or like
Yeah,
decapitate them.
destroy the brain, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah, even decapitating them in like The Walking Dead, they're still like alive.
Right.
So I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm leaning toward the can't survive in the cold in the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it would seem to indicate, because they don't seem to have they haven't run into any, and it's also like, but we also haven't seen any clues that really argue in favor of like them just not surviving. So that's, yeah, I think I would love some like
Yeah.
clarity on that. And yeah,
Maybe
but
they
I
just weren't a lot of people in this area to begin with.
yeah, yeah. Um yeah, it's a good point too. I mean, I do recall, so I rewatched the first episode a few nights ago, and I mean, I was just also like that first scene, where it's on like the television in like the 60s, and like Big Head is
Mm.
hosting
Yeah.
the the doctor, like the guest guy who like talks about cordyceps. He does mention something about like basically, they can't survive because of the cold, and
Mm.
basically like the show's like hinting at like, oh, what if the world were to heat up a few degrees, and it's like basically like global warming, um, would be that like that inciting incident that would allow
Yeah.
cordyceps to thrive. So I mean, going by that logic of just that one little sound bite, it kind of makes sense to me that like cordyceps needs a certain temperature to live and to like survive. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, we definitely need someone involved. Because
Hmm.
ultimately, whatever it's Neil's idea. So whatever Neil
Yeah.
Druckmann says is the way to go, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, but it is a good point because yeah, there's just nothing. There's no infected here at all. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, hopefully we'll find out someday. I think if they keep some stuff from season two, we'll see them in the snow, but they might not because they haven't been
Hmm.
interested in it for the
Hmm.
first season. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, and I guess we'll see how they approach the season finale as well. I mean, there are a few scenes which I think like for me are on like a checklist of like, I
Mm,
hope they hit these.
yeah,
But I'm also just trying to think, how do they fill a full hour? That's what's kind of occurring to me. Um, One option is maybe they set up, things for the second season more so than they did in the game,
mm,
with characters who we haven't met yet that are in the second game. That's, I think that's one option. What do you think?
yeah. I've been thinking about that a lot actually, just because I think they probably don't want to lose a certain surprise element in the second
Mm.
game, but They could, you know, maybe have like references that you pick up on if you played the game that, but they wouldn't like immediately set alarm bells off. I'm trying to like be like as vague as
Yeah,
possible for
yeah. Of
people who
course.
haven't played the games,
Hmm.
um, which I would be very interested to see. Especially maybe meeting one character who's not in the second game, but
Hmm.
who plays a important part to the overall narrative.
Hmm.
Maybe getting to know them more in this episode, that could be really interesting. But yeah, it's hard to say, right? Like it's so hard to
Hmm.
guess what they're gonna do here,
Hmm.
because I do think the shock part in the second game is something that they'll want to keep, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that was like a big reveal, which, you know, I think people on the internet, I mean, we could talk about that forever. Just the way people,
It's people on the internet.
people
Yeah,
I know, that's like a loaded statement.
yeah.
But um, when they showed like the first ever trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, you know, there were theories abound.
Oh yeah, there's so many theories.
And but I don't think anyone was quite expecting like how it actually panned out, and I think that's something they will want to keep for the show as well, and maybe even change up. I don't know. We'll see, but
Yeah, I remember one
yeah.
of the theories was that a certain character was Ellie's mom in like a flashback scene, and maybe from the trailers, we might be getting something like that in the next episode.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
interesting.
I mean, I'm not confirmed. I'm just like trying
Yeah.
to piece like who's Ashley Johnson in the show.
Right.
What is
Right.
she doing here?
Right.
You know.
Yeah, because so I think I had heard that she was in a trailer,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't. I personally, because I don't watch trailers and stuff, I haven't
Yeah,
seen her.
yeah,
But yeah, and then there's another part of me that's just like, man, I kind of wish like because maybe they didn't. I mean, well, I should say obviously they didn't know they were gonna have season two, but I kind of was like hoping they would like stretch him out and be like, all right, Troy's in the second season,
yeah, yeah,
Ashley's
yeah.
like whatever, but they kind of have them all in
No, they
this first
wanted.
season.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to put everyone in this season, just
Hmm.
in case this was it.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Which I respect because you know they've been great so far, and I have no doubt Ashley Johnson will also be awesome in the show.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah. Anything else that we didn't touch on yet that you wanted to?
No, no, I'm just yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm also sad to see this season end, but all good things must come to a close, so we'll see.
Yeah, same here. It's been a fun ride, and it's been fun doing these podcasts each week with you, and I hope for everyone listening, it's been fun having a little companion podcast to the show. I mean, I know there are like a ton of different
Hmm.
companion podcasts, but we very much appreciate you listening to ours.
Yeah, yeah, likewise.
And yeah, anything you want to promote or plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, just make sure to follow us on YouTube and Twitch. We could get everything. We're literally everywhere. Twitter. Brian, you're better at plugging this stuff, so I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. So yeah, like Zamora said, we're literally everywhere. And like I said last week, if you like watching people starve but not resort to cannibalism, at least yet, we got our Survivor podcast on the channel. Comes out on like late Wednesday night, so just say Thursday mornings for that, covering the new season of Survivor. I believe it's Survivor 44 we're on now. Crazy how many
Well,
seasons there are of that show.
yeah.
But Ben, Dylan, and I cover that each week. It's a lot of fun, so check that out on this channel. If you're into sports, check out our Wicked Good Sports channel. And if you're into comedy, sketches, gaming, pop culture stuff, check out our main channel, Wicked Good Everything. And we're on Twitter at WG Everything, Instagram Wicked Everything, and Twitch at twitch.tv/Wicked Good Everything. Thank you so much for your time, Tamur, and thank you for listening to everyone out there. And we'll see you in the next one.